Stop looking for a better job. Stop updating your resume in a panic. The career coaches are lying to you. The HR influencers are selling you a scam. The how to quit your toxic job videos are feeding you pure poison. They tell you to run. They tell you to file a complaint. They tell you to demand a safe space. They tell you that a bad boss is a tragedy that is ruining your life. That is not a tragedy. That is an inheritance. And you are throwing it in the garbage. When you pray for an easy boss, you are praying for weakness. You are begging to be coddled. You are asking the universe to keep you soft, fragile, and utterly unprepared for the brutal reality of human nature. That is not career planning. It is self-sabotage. And the tragedy is that your cowardice is showing. Your boss can smell the resentment on you from across the room. They can feel your passive-aggressive compliance. They can see you shrinking, complaining to your co-workers, and waiting for someone else to save you. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is more pathetic than a grown adult waiting for an employer to treat them nicely. So stop crying. Stop complaining. Stop hoping they will change. From this moment on, you are resigning from the victim's union. You are stepping off the witness stand. I want you to become completely invisible to their toxic whims. I want you to view your incompetent manager not as an obstacle, but as your primary training tool. You are miserable because you have turned your boss into your god. You wake up and check your laptop. A passive-aggressive email sits in your inbox. Your stomach drops. Your chest tightens. You sit in your car in the parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, trying to find the strength to walk through the front door. You analyze the tone of their Slack messages. You play out imaginary arguments in your head while you wash the dishes. You spend your entire weekend complaining to your partner about how unfair it all is. Look at yourself. You are a sovereign human being, and you are being puppeted by a person who probably doesn't even understand their own job. You are allowing the volatile mood swings of a middle manager to dictate whether you are happy or miserable. You have turned your mind into a public trash can. Your boss dumps their insecurity into it, and you just sit there, sorting through the garbage, wondering why your life smells like rot. Modern corporate self-help tells you to practice quiet quitting. They tell you to do the bare minimum and protect your peace. They tell you to establish healthy boundaries through polished emails. But those are just plastic shields in a volcanic eruption. If you need a technique to keep your composure, you have already lost it. If you need to hide in the bathroom to avoid a difficult conversation, your boss already owns you. And your boundaries will eventually shatter. You've tried being the nice, compliant employee. You've tried being the logical, over-delivering superstar. You've tried keeping your head down and ignoring the madness. And yet, you're still sitting here. Still bitter. Still exhausted. Still feeling like you are constantly auditioning for approval from someone you don't even respect. The reason you are failing to grow is simple. You care too much about how they treat you. And in the game of organizational dynamics, the person who needs the other to be reasonable holds the losing hand. This is not a matter of corporate policy. It is a law of spiritual physics. When you push against their toxicity with anger, their ego naturally pushes back harder. When you show them your pain, you give them the remote control to your nervous system. I don't want you to find a better boss. I want you to reach a point where a bad boss couldn't break your focus if they tried. Where an unfair critique doesn't ruin your day, it just serves as raw data. Where their chaotic micromanagement doesn't cause anxiety, it simply sharpens your strategic execution. Where their incompetence becomes the very ladder you climb to escape them. The moment you stop wishing for a fair boss is the exact moment you become unshakable. Because a person who can exploit a tyrant for their own development is the most terrifying and unstoppable force in any office. If you are ready to stop being a beggar for corporate appreciation. If you are ready to step out of the office drama and build a mind of iron. Then understand this channel is not for the comfortable. It is for the few who are willing to trade their complaints for absolute sovereignty. Subscribe now. Not to give me a metric, but to give yourself a daily checkpoint of mental discipline. To remind yourself that your desire for a comfortable workplace is a slow-acting poison. Join this small circle of the silent executors. Because the truth we are about to build is too heavy for the soft to hold. 2,000 years ago, Epictetus was born into the ultimate bad workplace. He was a slave in Rome. His boss was Epaphroditus, a brutal, volatile, and deeply insecure administrative official. Epaphroditus was so cruel that he once beat Epictetus so severely that he permanently crippled his leg. By modern standards, Epictetus had the ultimate toxic boss. He had no HR department to call. He had no labor laws to protect him. He had no legal right to quit. He should have been the most bitter, angry, and broken man in the empire. He had every excuse to spend his days cursing his master. But he didn't. He realized that while Epaphroditus owned his physical body, his mind was entirely his own. He understood a brutal, beautiful truth: some things are up to us, and some things are not. The mood of your manager? Not up to you. The fairness of your workload? Not up to you. The sanity of the company's leadership? Not up to you. Your response to their madness? Entirely up to you. Epictetus said, if a person gave your body away to any passerby, you would be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who insults you, leaving you upset and confused. Look at the average corporate worker today. They have high salaries, health benefits, and clean offices. But they are absolute slaves. They are crying in their cubicles because of a passive-aggressive email. They are terrified of getting a mediocre performance review from a fool. They are morphing their personalities, their language, and their values just to survive a morning stand-up meeting. They are weak. And we live in a culture that worships this weakness. A culture that tells you to file a grievance every time your feelings are hurt. A culture that tells you that you are a victim of gaslighting when your work is criticized. The Stoics didn't file grievances. They mastered themselves. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. He had absolute authority, but he still had to deal with bad bosses in the form of corrupt senators, incompetent generals, and treacherous advisors. He could have had them executed with a simple nod of his head. Yet, he chose to spend his nights writing in his journal, reminding himself how to deal with difficult people without losing his crown. Not his crown of gold, but his sovereignty over his own mind. He wrote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot distinguish good from evil. The emperor of the known world did not try to fix every idiot in his palace. He did not try to argue them into being fair. He simply accepted their toxic behavior as a natural fact of life, like the heat of the sun or the chill of the winter. He knew that the moment he allowed their incompetence to make him angry, he lost his empire. The Stoic concept of indifference is not about being a lazy, quiet quitter. It is not about silent resentment. It is about what they called adiaphora, the things that have no bearing on your moral character. Whether your boss praises your presentation, whether they take credit for your work, whether they schedule a meeting at 5 p.m. on a Friday, these are all preferred indifference. Sure, it's nice if they are polite. But their behavior does not make you a better human. And it certainly does not define your worth. When you master this, your entire relationship with your job shifts. You no longer walk into your manager's office hoping they like your proposal. You enter the room and treat their toxic feedback as a free test of your composure. This is the ultimate paradigm shift. Most people think keeping their cool in a toxic workplace is about willpower. They think they have to force themselves to smile, force themselves to take deep breaths, force themselves to not scream back. That is exhausting. And it is fake. It's like trying to hold a wild animal by its tail. Eventually, your grip slips, the animal turns around, and it bites you. You explode, you say something stupid, and you get fired. We aren't holding the beast. We are walking out of the cage. This is a matter of identity, not effort. You must shift your identity from a dependent employee to an independent contractor of your own character. A dependent employee is empty. They need their boss's approval to validate their work ethic. They show up to the office with an empty cup, begging their manager to fill it by saying, "Good job." And when the manager hands them a cup of criticism instead, the employee starves. An independent contractor of character is different. They do not need the boss to validate their physics. The sun does not argue with the dark, it simply shines. The mountain does not debate the storm, it simply stands. When you are the source, you do not need their validation to know you did excellent work. Your alignment with reality, your execution, your discipline, that is your validation. And when you stop needing your boss to be competent, something strange happens. Their toxic power over you dies before they even open their mouth. This is not a trick. It is simple organizational gravity. A bad boss's authority requires you to care about their opinion of you. When you refuse to let their opinions register on your emotional radar, they lose all their leverage. The most powerful person in any office is always the one who can receive a screaming reprimand without their heart rate rising by a single beat. How do you implement the Stoic strategy to exploit your bad boss? You do it by changing what you measure. Stop measuring your comfort. Start measuring your capacity. Every bad boss has a specific pathology. Your job is not to fix it. Your job is to identify their pathology and use it as a specific gym machine to train a specific mental muscle. Is your boss a volatile screamer? Great. That is your training machine for emotional self-containment. When they start raising their voice, you do not argue. You do not get defensive. You look them in the eyes, you keep your breathing slow, and you observe their anger as a surgeon observes a tumor. You analyze their words to see if there is any factual data you can use. If there is, you accept it. If there isn't, you let their noise drift out the window like the exhaust of a passing bus. Every second you remain calm while they lose their mind is a heavy repetition for your emotional firewall. Is your boss an insecure micromanager? Great. That is your training machine for absolute precision. A micromanager is terrified of losing control. Instead of fighting them, you flood them with information. You anticipate their questions before they ask. You document your processes with such meticulous detail that they have nothing to critique. You use their paranoia to force yourself to become the most organized, efficient, and precise operator in the entire department. They think they are controlling you, but in reality, they are paying you to build world-class administrative discipline. Is your boss a credit stealer who takes your ideas and presents them as their own? Great. That is your training machine for ego death. Let them take the credit. Let them take the clay. You are the potter. The fact that they must steal your ideas to look good is a tacit confession of their own intellectual bankruptcy. They need your ideas to survive, you do not need their praise to create. Focus purely on the fact that you generated the value. Your capability has increased, their dependency has widened. In the long run, the market always rewards the creator, while the thief is eventually exposed when the supply of stolen ideas runs dry. You do not have time to cry over office politics. You have an empire of self-mastery to build. Even if that empire is just the quiet space inside your own skull. This is what modern HR departments hate. They want you to be fragile. They want you to be dependent on corporate mediation. Because an anxious, dependent employee is easy to control. A dependent person stays in a bad role for 10 years because they are afraid of the discomfort of standing on their own. But a self-contained person who has mastered their composure under pressure? You cannot control a person who isn't afraid of a difficult manager. You cannot threaten a person who views your toxic workplace as their personal training ground. The fear of conflict is the ultimate chain. It makes you tolerate bad terms. It makes you accept disrespectful treatment. It makes you stay in careers that drain your soul because you are terrified of the friction of moving. Break the chain. Accept the necessity of corporate friction. Embrace it. Build a life that is so deep, so disciplined, and so focused that the chaotic noise of your office cannot even penetrate your mental walls. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." You are imagining that if you don't fight your boss, you will be walked over. You are imagining that if you don't defend your ego, people will think you are weak. But the opposite is true. When you argue with a toxic person, you have already surrendered. You have abandoned your own territory of peace to go begging for validation in theirs. Go back to your territory. Rebuild your fortress of silence. Cultivate your own focus. Focus on your physical body, your deep work, and your financial sovereignty. Make your professional capability so massive that your bad boss becomes a minor footnote in the story of your rise. And if they critique your work unfairly? Indifference. If they pass you over for a promotion? Indifference. If they fire you because you refuse to play their political games? Indifference. You do not punish them with anger. Anger is a confession of pain. Anger means their corporate hierarchy still has power over your emotions. Anger means they are still important enough to make you feel like a slave. The opposite of respect is not rebellion. It is indifference. When you are indifferent, they do not exist as your master. They are like the weather outside your office window. Sometimes it rains. Sometimes it snows. But you don't argue with the rain. You just wear a coat. This is the invincibility of the Stoics. They did not fight the chaos of the world. They let the chaos beat itself against their shields until it got tired and went home. Stop being a leaf blown by every breeze of management opinion. Become the mountain. The mountain doesn't ask the valley for permission to stand. The mountain doesn't care if the clouds cover its peak for a morning, or if the sun shines on its slopes tomorrow. It just remains. Cold. Silent. Immovable. And eventually, the managers pass. The corporate hierarchies restructure. The companies go bankrupt. And the mountain is still there. The next time you feel the panic rising before a one-on-one meeting. The next time you feel the urge to type a furious reply to a passive-aggressive email. Stop. Breathe. Look at your hands. Remember who you are. Remember the generations of survivors who came before you, who built this civilization through sweat and silence. Do you really think they did all that so you could lose your peace of mind over a spreadsheet? Kill the urge to defend your ego. Turn off the screen. And go do your job with absolute, terrifying excellence. Go write. Go build. Go execute. Go analyze. Put your energy into the only asset class that has a guaranteed return on investment, your own capability. Managers are volatile. Markets are volatile. The company is volatile. The only stable currency in existence is your character and your skill set. Invest there. And watch how quickly the office power dynamics tilt in your favor. When they see that you cannot be baited by their toxicity, they will stop trying. When they see that you cannot be shaken by their micromanagement, they will want to anchor themselves to your reliability. When they see that you do not need their approval, they will realize how much they actually need your execution. But by then, you won't even care about their corporate titles. Because you will have discovered the greatest secret of all. That the most powerful thing in any organization is not a mouth that can win any corporate debate. It is a soul that has set itself free from the need to have them. Stop begging for a better boss. Start standing in your own sovereignty. You are the sovereign of your own career. Act like it. And let the bad bosses pay for your training. The era of your professional desperation is over. The time of your sovereignty has begun. Your mind is your kingdom. Govern it with iron. Or watch it fall. The crown is on your head. Do not drop it for a peasant's office.